Welcome to Unlearning with Laura, the podcast where you get to rewire your mind, reclaim your power, and break generational cycles. I'm Laura Stiles, clinical hypnotherapist and mindset coach, and founder of The Mindful Generation, the place where parents come to transform their lives and live with more purpose and freedom. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Currie, a screen-free voice messaging device designed for families who want connection, safety and independence without giving children a smartphone. As conscious parents, we know smartphones are powerful tools, but they also come with pressure, distraction and risks that developing brains simply aren't built for. Currie, spelt Karri, offers an awesome alternative, allowing children to stay connected with the people who matter most, while protecting their emotional well-being and their childhood. You can take advantage of 15% off the Messenger One device. Just use code MindfulGen15 at the checkout. Check the link in the show notes to find out more. But for now, let's tune in. My guest today is Currie OBE, founder of UPFRONT, an organisation on a mission to change confidence, visibility and power for 10 million women. Thousands of women across 50 countries have graduated from her flagship programme, the UPFRONT Bond, and her clients include the likes of Nike, the Ministry of Defence and the British Red Cross. Lauren is a keynote speaker, author and a genuine force of nature, and in 2017 was awarded an OBE for her services to design and diversity. Lauren lives in Stockholm with her partner and her 8-year-old son, and she has just released her brand new book, Be Upfront, which I have been hyping loudly and will continue to hype because as a graduate of her UPFRONT programme, I know it's incredible. Today we're going to talk all about confidence, and I think you are going to love this one, ladies. So here we go. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for joining. Also, I've been trying to get you on for a while. I don't know if you know this, but I have been trying to. I've probably been hounding you for a while. So this is really exciting for me because I'm a bit of a fan of yours.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm going to dive straight in because I've got so much I want to cover and I think that everyone is going to get a lot of value from this conversation. So let's talk a bit about UPFRONT. So you run UPFRONT and it's built around unlearning old rules and replacing them with new ones. Mm-hmm. Which rule do you think that women, particularly mums, are most urgently carrying around that's keeping them small?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so UPFRONT is a global confidence accelerator. We've been doing this work for 10 years. Our flagship product is called the Bond, B-O-N-D. Bond is the collective noun for a group of women, and we've had 17,000 women go through the programme, many of whom are mothers. And because our programme is free if you're on maternity leave, many of them are also new mums. I'm also a mum myself. My son has just turned 8 and I was on the board of Pregnant Then Screwed for 7 years, the leading maternity discrimination charity. So this is something that I have spent a lot of time thinking about, and the old rule that I see women, particularly mums, carrying around is this rule that it is your job to hold everything together and to make everybody happy. And if that doesn't happen, then that means you are a personal failure. And where this gets really interesting for me is that rule is deeply tied to guilt. And guilt is a very uncomfortable emotion, but I think it's much easier than conflict. And I think this is where guilt and confidence intersect in a really powerful way. Because when your confidence is low, your nervous system is on high alert to avoid conflict. So you're moving through your daily life, moving through the world, trying really hard not to upset anybody, not to disappoint anybody, not to risk tension, not to risk a disagreement. Essentially, we don't want to rock the boat. And when you're a mum, that pressure is amplified in 1,000 ways because the stakes feel much higher. Because it's not just about you anymore. It's also about your children. It's about your family. It could be about your employer. It could be about how society is perceiving you as a parent.
Yeah.
So the consequence of that kind of toxic cocktail is that you end up taking on far too much. You don't set boundaries, you don't say no, you don't advocate for your own capacity. Instead, you become a sponge absorbing everybody else's responsibilities, emotions, and expectations. And up front in the bond, we see that pattern across sectors, across generations, across organisations. It's one of the most gendered behaviours that we work with, because women who don't feel safe or confident to hold boundaries compensate by overfunctioning. And from the outside in and to family and friends, it might look like caring and it might look even virtuous, but actually deep down, it's fear. It's fear of, what if they think I'm difficult? What if they think I'm annoying? What if I'm seen as selfish? What if I'm seen as not coping, in inverted commas? And that's where this idea of the guilt tax comes in. So the more you avoid conflict, the more responsibility you carry. The more responsibility you carry, the more guilt you hold. And that's the cost that you pay for taking on all this shit that actually isn't yours to hold. And the weight of it all just keeps eating away at your confidence even more and more, making it even harder to set boundaries the next time. So it's this vicious cycle that keeps mothers exhausted, overextended, apologising for things that were never theirs to manage. So in the bond and in my book, I talk about how to break that guilt tax, because it's not about working harder, it's not about managing your time better, it's about building real confidence that's rooted in clarity and self-advocacy and learning to say, this is mine and this is not mine. That's when guilt starts to lift, because you're no longer paying the price for other people's responsibilities and emotions. So the old rule that I think mothers need to really look at and get to grips with and get rid of is this piece around that guilt and motherhood are somehow best friends.
Yeah.
And I think confidence is the way to get rid of that old rule, because when confidence is absent, guilt starts to take over. And I want to live in a world where mothers are not consumed by guilt the way I see a lot of mothers being today.
Yes, brilliant. That is such a great first answer to this conversation, because it's something that comes up so much in, within Upfront. I remember all of that, the module around guilt, and I remember kind of diving into that. But I also get a lot of my clients talk about mum guilt all the time. And I often say, it's just literally the tension, like you say, the conflict, isn't it? And I remember working full time when my eldest was really, really little and feeling so much guilt. And with the support over the years, your program, many other kind of things that therapy, coaching, I've really realized in the last kind of maybe 2 to 3 years that this guilt doesn't actually exist. I just need to reframe it in my mind. And learning to do that with confidence, like you said, is so empowering, and it's so lovely. And it's so nice to know, actually, I'm doing all the best I can. There's nothing I can change about my situation. I have to work full time at this point in time. And so I can just allow the guilt to fizzle away, which was a bit of a journey. But it's so nice to see mums get rid of that feeling, or at least know when it's creeping in and manage it. So let's talk about negativity bias towards women, because I've had conversations on this podcast before about internalized misogyny, and 90% of people have a negativity bias towards women. How do we raise daughters who don't internalize that? What are your thoughts on, it's not just I know we can talk about boys and little girls, but with the context of girls and women, what are your thoughts on that?
So this is a theme and a question that is very close to my heart, because it's very connected to the theme of my children's book, which of course you were a great champion and cheerleader for, called Taylor Meets the Trick. And that is a children's book that's aimed at preschool children to teach them and their grown-ups how to spot and beat the patriarchy in a very fun, friendly, accessible way. So kids call it the trick, grown-ups call it the patriarchy. And in the story, the trick is a little black squiggly monster that sneaks into your heart and your tummy and makes you think that there's rules for boys and rules for girls, where of course we know there's no such thing. And so how do we raise our daughters to live in a world where there's 90% negativity bias towards women? I mean, I know you said, let's think about girls, but it is really important that we think about boys first, because the majority of that negativity bias comes from men and male violence and male discrimination against women. So it's really important that mothers of boys really look at this and be very intentional with how do we raise boys that are feminist and kind and allies, and how are they going to change this culture so that, our granddaughters and our grandsons are not having the same conversation, because it is also harming men and boys. And I think with both boys and girls, it starts with your own unlearning, right? So it's like asking yourself, what were you taught about boys and girls growing up? And where do you see the trick show up in your life? And what do you want to choose instead? I started talking to my son about the trick when he was 2, and now he's 8. And we're able to have very sophisticated, or what I feel to be are sophisticated conversations about helping him understand how deep the trick is embedded in my life and how I see the world. And so that means that I don't want somebody to take my picture in a bikini, and he can ask me why, and I can talk to him about that and explain that, because the trick makes me feel that I have to look a certain way to be beautiful in a bikini, for example. So I think the biggest barrier to all of this is this notion that women have, because we're inherently overachievers. It's like that we have to have a PhD in feminism and we have to have read all the parenting books, and that's not true. You essentially just need to start noticing and naming. Like noticing the patterns, noticing the language, and giving language to those things. And that's the beginning of raising boys who think critically, feel deeply, question the messages they're getting from the world about what they're told they're allowed to be, what they're told they're not allowed to be. And it's how you raise girls who are also thinking critically, asking questions, and rejecting the labels that society will put on her. The data tells us that as age 6 in the UK is when girls start to wish they were thinner. So you cannot have this conversation early enough. And the other really important part of it is, especially if you're co-parenting with a man, is look at the man that you are raising your girl with, because what messages is he modelling? Like, how does he treat the women in his life? How does he treat the women in his workplace? Does he have female friends? Does he listen to female musicians? Does he read books written by women? Does he apologise when he's wrong? Does he have meaningful friendships? Does he share the load without being asked? Is he challenging the trick in public and at home? And I know there'll be people listening to this thinking, no, he's not. So then it's about, how do you find others, communities, other women who are out there who can support you and help you build the world that you want your daughter to live in. And the best way to do that is by really leaning into the agency that you have as her mother. So it's like letting her hear you say, I don't know, letting her hear you say, I've changed my mind. Letting her see how you react and respond when something goes wrong. You're letting your daughter see you have emotions. Like, all of that is modelling psychological flexibility and self-trust. And those are the two things that girls need to protect themselves against internalising these biases. So, of course, I'm going to recommend that you use my children's book, because it works and it's great. And you can use characters like Taylor in the book as mirrors. That means you can have conversations like, well, Taylor felt squiggly because he's a boy with long hair and the school teacher thought he was a girl. Like, has anything like that ever happened to you? What would you say if someone at school said girls can't play football? So it's not about having perfect scripts or perfect frameworks. It's like just being willing to try
Yeah.
and having that conversation with her. It's like, I'll often say to my son, like, this is really hard. I don't know. I'm figuring this out the same way that you are. What do you think? So he knows that if he's not seeing me as I'm on a pedestal with all the answers, he's seeing me as a grown up who's also been tricked her whole life, who's now trying to get rid of the trick in our family home. And so I hope that that gives your listeners the confidence and the push to think you can start exactly as you are.
Yeah, so true. And start now, but yeah, it can be a messy journey because I probably started this journey when my eldest, who's now 9, I've got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old boy. And yeah, it was probably when he was around like 3 or 4 that I started changing my language or trying to notice where I was saying things that could perhaps be said in a different way. And what I love about children is their innocent minds, because my eldest particularly, because he's got much more of a good understanding of it all, because he will sometimes call me out. And an example of that is recently, I don't often wear mascara these days. I just find it really annoying for my eyes. And put a load of makeup on the other day because I had an event, and he was like, "What? Why have you got makeup on, Mummy? What's that on your eyelashes?" And I explained. He said, "Well, why do you need to wear that?" And I said, "Do you know what? I don't actually need to wear it. No one needs to wear makeup. You know, everyone is beautiful as they are in their natural form, but I want to because it does make me feel a bit nicer. I feel like I look a bit better." He's like, "I don't think you do look better with it on." And we had such a lovely conversation because, he's just making me now think, oh my gosh, I can actually change that and it doesn't matter. And we still have this ingrained belief, I look better with this on. And I guess sometimes, yes, you can feel more confident if you know you look more attractive and stuff. But it just makes me feel so pleased that he calls me out on things. We're learning together about the patriarchy. And also he's very good at, the other day we were talking about, can't remember whether it was an animal or a creature or a person, but I said he about the thing, and he said, or it could be a she. It was funny that my son actually said that without me prompting him to do that. So my eldest is like really, the book, the trick is amazing. It's actually really helping because I can see together both of us kind of learning with that book. My youngest is still getting there. He said only last week, pink's a girl's colour, and we had a conversation about that. So, it's a fun journey, but also can be quite, because that conversation about the colour pink actually ended up being, he actually ended up getting really annoyed because he's clearly, I've not said pink's a girly colour. My husband hasn't said it. So he's got that from school or friends or whatever, but he was getting very frustrated about it. So interesting.
Yeah, and they can get frustrated when it's like, you've been tricked. It's like, no, I've not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the calling animals and creatures she by default is like a key principle of the resource of the book, because it's such a daily occurrence, I think, that all parents can relate to, that we all just default to he. It's like if you spend some time at the zoo and listen in, that all the animals are he's.
Yeah.
But it's an easy way to start to shift their minds.
Yeah, definitely. It does feel really like a huge responsibility at the moment, raising boys, doesn't it? With everything going on in the world, it does feel huge. I have to sometimes remind myself it's messy, but we're doing the right thing because at least we have the awareness, and a lot of people don't even have the awareness. Talking about upfront again, let's go back to that. So what does a woman who is truly living upfront look like in her day-to-day life? So like, what does she do differently and what has she stopped doing?
So I think one of the mistakes that people make when we think about confidence is you imagine that these kind of moments of success or the results that would come from reading my book or being part of the Bond program are really shiny and sexy and bold, stages and spotlights. And those things are important and they do matter to many women. The moments that I am most proud of are the ones that are really tiny and ordinary, and the ones that like nobody's going to write a LinkedIn post about, but they actually change how a woman is moving through the world. And that can be that she eats the last ice cream instead of giving it away because she's like, I want to have it and I'm going to have it. It's like asking for a better hotel room because you turn up and the one you've got the view that you paid for, because you're no longer terrified of being seen as being difficult. It's like going for a nap when there's a pile of dishes that need to be washed, or hoovering that needs done, because you've unlearned this idea that those things are your responsibility. So those are the moments, those day-to-day moments. And, of course, they start to translate into taking up space, speaking up more. But the moments that happen, in the kitchen, in your inbox, in the conversation about how you're raising your children with your partner, in the queue at Tesco, on the bus, it's like all these small moments stack up and you become a woman who makes bolder decisions, and those things ripple into your relationship, your career, your parenting, your leadership. And so you might say, what does eating the last ice cream, what's that going to change? But when you are a woman who will eat the last ice cream, you're also a woman who will eventually negotiate her salary, challenge someone for being biased or prejudiced, like end a friendship that's not serving you anymore, apply for a job that you previously would never have applied for. So the bond is not only about preparing you and setting you up for these bigger moments, it's rewiring the neural pathways so that these small moments become normal, and they are small, but they change everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I'd love to know, do you have a small moment from because you were in the bond last year, do you have a small moment you could share with us?
Oh my goodness, I've got so many. Do you know what? It probably is as simple as the food thing, because there was a long period of time where I was actually in survival mode and I was parenting in complete burnout. Like I was just kind of not looking after myself, to the point where there were some days where I just wasn't even like brushing my hair. It was quite a tricky time a few years ago. And yeah, I was like living off of the kids' leftovers and stuff. And it probably was around like a year ago that after the bond, that I started actually just really putting myself first and just saying what I needed, because I was labelled difficult as a child. I've been labelled a drama queen as a child, and just unlearning all of that and knowing like, actually, I do want my needs to be met. It's okay for me to want nice things, whether it's a piece of chocolate or an ice cream. I guess one example would be when chocolate, I love chocolate, and my children had some chocolate, and over Easter there was very small amount. We didn't have heaps, but I said, I'd like to have some of that. Can I have some chocolate? Because there was some for the kids, there was some for my husband, but there was none for me. And I was like, please, can I have some? And, I think years ago I wouldn't have said that. I would have just been like, whatever, like I don't really matter. But now I'm confident enough to ask for what I want.
And next year I hope you get a whole egg gifted to you for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so much better at just also not just like having needs met. It's beyond that. It's wanting a treat and knowing that I'm worthy of having nicer things. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's at that point in my parenting journey where I'm like, they're a bit older now. I can actually make time to go and have a dinner with a friend in the evening and get out of bedtime. I'm doing that this evening, actually, because my eldest he's on his first residential this week. My husband's going to have a really lovely time with the youngest, and I'm going to go out for a dinner with a friend. And it's not often that I've been able to do that over the years. So yeah, it's just little things like that where I'm like, yes, sod it. It's my time now to have fun and get dressed up and go for a meal.
The good news for folks listening is we've actually just launched a new bond that's a 21-day sprint version of the bond that you went through, the 6-week bond. It's called Bond Now, and you can start anytime. It's totally flexible. So if you're listening thinking, I want to be that woman, go to weareupfront.com and check out Bond Now. We'd love to welcome you and support you. And I feel like now I need to buy everyone that signs up chocolate and an ice cream.
Yeah, some of your merch is actually really cool. That sounds amazing. I did actually read about that when you spoke about, I think I get your newsletters and I think I read about it in there. How does it work then? Is it is it just a condensed version of the 6-week program then? You get the login and stuff like that?
Yeah. So you log in and you have access to the bond course for 21 days. That means there's 26 modules. They're all bite-sized, very easy to consume and digest. There's a reading list that you download and keep forever. And every Wednesday, there's a Unlearning Bond Power Hour, which is a live call with the Upfront team and all of the other bonders who are taking part in Bond now, and also Bond alumni from bonds over the last 5 years. And that hour is about, reflecting together, learning together, making new friends, making new connections. And, we've built it so it's like 5 minutes a day for 21 days. And of course, nobody's got 21 perfect days. Like, life happens and gets in the way, and that's fine. You can consume the videos in whatever way you wish, and you're also part of the community for 21 days. So there's content and structure and support in there. So yeah, it launched on Monday. So we are really excited to have it in the world, because the bonds, the 6-week bonds, get such incredible feedback. And of course, we've been running them for 5 years now, but they only happen twice a year. And I meet so many women, I met so many women on the book tour. They were like totally buzzing, like, I want to do it now. What can I do now? And of course, I'm like, hey, you're going to have to wait till June. So when me and the team kind of debriefed and talked about it, we were like, let's build something that is lighter, much like less time commitment, smaller financial investment. They can start whenever they want, and then that means that we can really harness whether you've listened to this podcast or you've read my book, or whatever that moment is, you can dive in and start.
That is such a great idea. Do you know what? The bond was so helpful for me, because around that time, I think I'd only just launched this podcast in the January of last year. And so I was really, I've been doing a lot of work on confidence for a long time. And I think it's all been a bit of an unlearning journey. And what I loved the most was like the public speaking, and like the way you stand and the way you breathe, and like the 3 different voices that you have. That section for me was amazing. I just found it so helpful, because I was like, oh yeah, I do kind of have like 3 different voices. There's like these different versions that you use for different situations, isn't there? Yeah, I just found it very helpful. So yeah, for anyone who is intrigued, definitely check out the Upfront website. We'll talk about it at the end, but yeah, it is great. I can vouch for that. Okay, so I'd love to talk a little bit about, you've got an OBE, right? And where you grew up is, okay, so let me get this word right. I don't want to mess up. So yeah. Kilmarnock, is that right? Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yes, Kilmarnock, yeah.
Kilmarnock. Great. Okay. Yeah. And I'm assuming that's a very, I don't know for sure. I've only ever been to Glasgow and Edinburgh for weekend trips. Is it a kind of small town kind of? Yeah. Okay.
A very small, very poor town.
Okay, right. So in my mind, I'm visualizing like younger Lauren, childhood, that kind of thing. And it's so impressive. You've built like a proper sort of global movement. And I love that you talk honestly about the rules that held you back. But what was the thing that you personally had to unlearn that most surprised you?
So the thing that has surprised me the most, and this is a rule that I am very much still unlearning, is the assumption that women naturally support other women. Because the truth is, internalised misogyny makes that really complicated. And, I've been doing this work so I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years. I've built 5 businesses. Upfront's my 6th business. All of them have been in and around social change, culture change. And a red thread throughout all those ventures was me often being the only woman in the room, being the youngest person in the room, the only person that didn't go to a fancy university, the only person with a regional accent. And that experience is what led me to build Upfront in the first place, because I was so frustrated and tired of being the only one. And now, fast forward 10 years of Upfront, it was my side project for 5 years. Then I was full-time CEO for 5 years. And now my days are writing about confidence, building spaces about confidence for others. I'm still constantly meeting the edge of my own confidence. And right now, what that looks like for me is rooted in tall poppy syndrome, which I'm sure some of your listeners will be familiar with, which is a phenomenon that has been studied that tells us that when a woman is seen to be succeeding, to put her head above the parapet, then it is very likely that other women will try and cut her down. And that has been my personal experience. And I'm learning to live with the fact that I am a tall poppy. Like, that is part of who I am, my nature, my personality. And the more visible I become, the more other women are trying to cut me down. And it's not always direct. And I don't think it's personal to me. I think this is a very, very common thing that we see in the news and online every day. It's the backlash that women face when we own our success and we own our voices in public spaces. And so the message then becomes, I think there's definitely like a message of, yeah, like, we're all behind you. This is amazing. Go, go, go. And then once you start to go too high, it's like, oh, we didn't mean that high.
Yeah.
We didn't mean that much. So then the applause turns into something else. So I actually got a tattoo of a tall poppy on my shoulder a couple of years ago as a reminder to myself to, like, stay tall, stay visible, even when it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. And that's the piece that I'm unlearning for sure. And it's challenging, but 1000% necessary. And, part of that is also dismantling my own internalized misogyny. And that's why there's a whole chapter in the book about the old rule being that other women are threats, and the new rule being that other women are mirrors of what we're capable of. This mantra of who does she think she is has followed me about my whole life. And people used to write it on the toilet walls about me in school.
Really?
Now I understand. It's like when I still have moments where I look at another woman and think that, or I think, why does she have that and I don't have that? Or how did she get that? And it's like, she's what you would be if you weren't holding yourself back, or if you were, there's so many lessons to learn in those moments about what you're capable of, what you're driven by, what you care about. And I think we've come such a far way in having these conversations, in our workplaces, at home, on podcasts. We've got lots of language now to talk about equity and equality, but I don't see us having that same conversation about internalized misogyny and the role that each of us play in upholding these structures. I mean, all you need to do is just sit back and watch what happens when Taylor Swift wins an award.
Definitely.
It's really dark, and I'm determined to play my part to make it better.
Yeah, me too. 100%. And the other thing, all you need to do is, I thought you were going to say, like, if you go onto social media and see a woman who's absolutely smashing it, like whether it's Taylor Swift or Lily Allen or whoever, just look at the comments in the thread and just see how much internalized misogyny is coming from other women. It's quite frightful. And it's important that we stop our own thoughts, or just become aware of, like, where we're kind of...
Awareness, is it? Curiosity, yeah. Awareness.
I can relate to that. It was only recently that I had a thought about someone who, I mean, it's jealousy sometimes for me. I'm just like, why can't I have that? And then I'm like, okay, but why can't I just view that person as someone that I can look up to? Because that, like, eventually you could perhaps have that. You just need to view them as someone that's awesome.
My coach gave me a really good one-liner to go to in those moments, because I know that when I'm kind of spiraling into that place, jealousy and comparison is how it shows up for me most. So I know when I start to have those thoughts and ideas, I'm like, okay, put the phone away, need to probably have a drink of water, eat some food, probably have a sleep. That's a sign of dysregulation. But she taught me in that moment, rather than how come she's got that, or where did that come from, to say, I can't wait till it's my turn.
Yeah, such a great reframe, isn't it?
Because it's like, we can both have it, we can all have it, we can all have the like, it's the scarcity, and it's not that's also a direct symptom of it's a consequence of the patriarchy, right? Like we're really fed this message of there is not enough for all of us. So therefore we must compete. And we've been rewarded for competing against each other and viewing each other as competition since we were little. Where the truth is there is enough time, money, love for all of us to thrive. And, then you're in a place of capitalism and wider structures and forces that are not set up to enable all of us to thrive. But that idea of, well, there's only one book deal and she's got it and I didn't, is just nonsense, because there's enough readers in the world for all of us to write the book that we want to write.
Yeah, definitely. And what I've realised is when I notice that it's jealousy, it's often because I can see a part of myself in that person. Like I feel like I'm capable of reaching that goal. I'm just not there yet. So it's actually impatience. And it's like, how do I fill the gap to get there? And so actually it's quite a nice way to sort of almost coach yourself through to figure out how to take the steps to become that person and embody them. So yeah, you can absolutely reframe it. I love that terminology. That's great. Fab. Okay. I always end this podcast with a question, and I've obviously given you the choice of two. And so you know what I'm going to ask you. What would you say to first-time pregnant version of Lauren to support her?
Oh, a lot. I feel like I could write a book about this.
It's another one to add to your list.
Maybe I will one day. So I would say don't focus or spend any time on birth plans and birth books. Focus on year 1, 6-month plan of when the baby's here. Yeah. Who is going to come and visit you? Who are you going to go for a glass of wine with when you're ready? Who is going to babysit? Who's going to pop in on a Wednesday so that you can have a shower? Who's going to come and empty your dishwasher? Who's going to come and batch cook so your freezer's filled? Like literally get things in the diary and have those conversations with your friends and family now. That would be my first thing. Second thing is tell all the people that you do not want flowers, you want food.
Yeah.
Like I remember so clearly, like sitting in my living room, probably just peed myself, nipples bleeding, yeah. Absolutely ravenous. Like the hunger that comes in that postpartum period, especially if you breastfeed, is unmatched. It's like a hunger that can't be satiated. And I was just like so desperate for somebody to bring me a vegetarian lasagna, and they all kept bringing me beautiful flowers. I'm like, I don't want flowers. I want a sausage roll.
Yeah, something you have to keep alive. Another thing you have to try and keep alive. Yeah.
So you don't want flowers, you want food. And yeah, I think those are the two main ones. I guess the third one is another reason why I've written my book and why I run UpFront, and that I do believe that confidence saves lives. And in a medical context, you must know how to advocate for yourself, which I did not at that time, and it cost me a lot, a huge amount. And that is, trauma that I'm still working through 8 years later. So, and that, I hate to end it on a serious note, but it is really, really important, because confidence can be put in this kind of nice to have box, or, you think it's about the public speaking and spotlight and the fancy moments, and it is about those things, but it's also about advocating for yourself and your rights, and advocating for your unborn baby and your baby when it arrives, because these systems are not designed with mothers in mind. They're not, that's not what they're designed for. And that's a conversations that you can start to have now with your friends and your family and the people that you're going to raise your baby with.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love those answers. Sorry that you had a traumatic time. I feel you when you say that. I kind of had a tricky time and birth trauma with my first, and I wish I'd have advocated for myself more as well. I did do a lot of it, but in hindsight, it wasn't really enough. And I think you just don't know how far you can push it. Again, I probably didn't want to be difficult, but yeah, it's so hard when
You're so vulnerable. You're
yeah,
incredibly vulnerable.
yeah,
And that's what makes it so difficult. And, it's also not that way for everyone, right? You and I both know lots of people who had a brilliant experience, but I also know people who had a terrible experience. And I think I just wish that I had gone in with my eyes open and had known that, because nobody told me that.
yeah. And when you were talking about feeling like starving hungry as well when breastfeeding, oh my goodness, like, the memories came back to me when you were saying that. I was hungry all the time. I lost so much weight breastfeeding because I just wasn't nourishing myself.
Well, I was the opposite. I
really?
like 3 dress sizes. I used to eat, oh my gosh, what are they called again? They're not fritters. What are those like potato things that you get?
Oh, hash browns?
Hash browns. I used to put a whole bag of frozen hash browns like on the tray and just eat the whole bag like daily.
I love a hash brown. That sounds like a good shout. I think I just was in such a, I mentioned earlier about the burnout. I think I just wasn't looking after myself enough. And I wish that someone was there. I wish I just had a butler who was just making me food all the time. So
that's what your partner should be your butler, right? That's the request that needs to be.
Well,
be managed now if you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Partners are butlers.
Yeah.
Any other things, but that's part of the role for sure.
It's such a good point. And he was a good butler when he got in from work every night. Like he was definitely the food provider, which he's continued to be. But yeah, it's just so hard when you don't really know what's coming. And if you are first time pregnant, it's hard to know like how little time you're going to have to just do those little things, such as making food and getting some water. So yeah, I love that answer. We are nearly finished. When it comes to time, I don't want to go over time, but can I really quickly ask you about your art? Because you have been posting you've posted something recently with your art and just like showing off like your new passion, and I love your style. I know I commented on what you shared, and it's all around aging. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, this is exciting. That's the first time I've been asked about it on a podcast. So thank you for asking. It's very, very new. So the work is about owning the fact that I am aging. And so I turned 40 this year, and my feed is full of 40-year-olds who look 25. And I have lots of girlfriends who get Botox and have different treatments. And I've been really struggling with it. It's like my hair I'm getting lots of grey hairs. I can see wrinkles that weren't there before. And I started to sketch portraits of older ladies, in their 70s, 80s, who are fabulous. They are super stylish, amazing jewellery, very, styled. And Iris Apfel, I'm sure a lot of your listeners will know of Iris Apfel. She was very known and world famous for her fashion style well into her, I think she was 102 when she died. And I just was having so much fun and then started to realise that I was thinking so differently about it, because I was spending so many hours looking at pictures of these older ladies that when I looked in the mirror or saw a photograph, I'd be like, well, yeah, that's what faces look like. That's what my face will get to look like, hopefully, if I am lucky enough to stay alive and to stay well and healthy. And then I'd be out and about, and I'm like noticing these older women and I wouldn't say I didn't notice them before, but I'm noticing them. It's almost like I'm zooming in on their earrings and their eye wrinkles and their, the walking stick that they've styled themselves. And it's like noticing these things that I didn't notice before. And I've created 39 portraits, and they're all on my wall, and seeing them every day has undoubtedly rewired neural pathways in my brain. And I'm like, okay, I want this to happen to all women. Like and I think if you buy one of these prints and have it on your wall, then the same thing will happen to you. It's like it's going to remind you of the beauty and the power of aging, and that this is what an older face looks like. Because Instagram, especially Instagram and a lot of these platforms, are just skewing our judgment because our algorithm is so biased and anti-aging, and trying to sell us shit that's going to make us look younger and thinner. And my algorithms also started to change, which has made me super happy. So now my explore page is like, women in bikinis who are like 95 lying on a beach in Italy smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, fucking yes, this is what I want to see. Not the like, here's how to contour to look 24.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my first ever portrait collection. It's called Honour Thy Face, and I've got a local exhibition in summer where I live here in Sweden, and another exhibition in Barcelona in June. So I am just so can't wait to share them with people, and hope that you'll all love them as much as I love them. I'm thinking maybe I should give them all a name, because I feel like they're all real people now.
Oh, you should. Oh, definitely. I just thought of the name Cindy for one of them, because one of them I really love, and I can just imagine it in my dining area. We have a lot of different artwork, and I was thinking as soon as I saw your post, I was like, that would look really good there. So it's inspired me, actually. I used to do a lot of drawing when I was young, and I haven't been doing any of it for a long time, and it made me think I really need to be doing that. It's a lovely way to get into a flow state, put the phone away for a while, and just enjoy life.
Yeah. I mean, I have a similar story in that, I went to art school. I was a huge drawer all through my childhood, and it just totally disappeared from my life over the years. And it was a year and a half ago I read Amy McNee's book, We Need Your Art, which I cannot recommend enough. And in that book, she challenges you to a 2-week creativity reset where you have to draw something every day for 2 weeks. And that is what has led me here. Like, I drew something every day for 2 weeks. Then I just kept drawing every day. And then it took a year.
Yeah.
And a few weeks ago, something clicked, and I just had this flood of energy and excitement and inspiration around this old lady that I'd drawn, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do hundreds of these are incredible. And I just had so much fun. And yeah, I agree with you that it's such an easy habit to fall out of, but I think it's so important, especially right now, with the world being the very scary place that it is. And science has proven that it's good for you.
Yeah.
It's good for you. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your well-being.
Yeah.
And anything that brings you joy should be prioritised.
Totally. I've just taken note. Amy McNee, I'm going to put a link to that book in the show notes, because I thought that, yeah.
She endorsed my book, which I'm super proud of. She's on the back cover. She also hosted my online book launch. She's a huge inspiration to me. She's definitely worth getting her book.
I knew I recognised the name. Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much, Lauren. This has been such a lovely chat. And where can people find you? Tell us a bit more about socials, website.
Of course. So I am Lauren Currie on Instagram and LinkedIn. I show up on both those platforms most days. I would really, really love you to come and message me and say hi if you listen to this, because Laura and I are here having this conversation for you. So it always makes my day if someone reaches out and says, heard you on Laura's podcast, wanted to say hi, or if you've got any questions or you want to talk more about anything that I've shared. I have a free newsletter that comes out every Thursday where I share 10 links that I believe belong in your inbox. And upfront, you can go to weareupfront.com. There you'll find all the information about Bond Now, which you can join anytime. Or if you want to be part of the 6-week bond, the same bond that Laura took part in, we start on June the 8th. And all the information for that's on the website too. And you can also find a link to buy my book, which is called Be Upfront, 24 Rules for Life-Changing Confidence.
Brilliant. Yeah, your book is amazing. We've got Taylor Meets the Trick. I haven't bought your new book, but I need to order it. Everything you do is so exciting. I don't quite know how you've got the time to do it all, but I'm looking forward to seeing more books, more of the art and everything else that you share. So thank you so much, Lauren. It's been
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.